Is here from the NFL Network, Super Bowl winning coach. Always our pleasure, and we'll go through all the different events around the National Football League. Good morning, Brian Billick.
Good morning to you guys.
All right, let's start with last night's game, and let's start with you lose the franchise superstar quarterback as they do in Green Bay, and now they're trying to put it together. And Mike, make your point about what they're doing with Hundley, where he's just throwing the ball. He's averaging 5 yards per attempt, which is the lowest of any quarterback in the National Football League. So your thoughts, Mike, on what, if anything, they can do to try and open
again, 23 of his 38 pass attempts were thrown within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. 13 of the 38 were thrown at or behind the line of scrimmage, and of those, 8 went for 0 or negative yards. And Coach, we heard Mike McCarthy say Brett Hundley is in our system. He knows the system. I get he's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I mean, at some point, don't you have to let him get that ball downfield a little bit? I know maybe defenses, is he checking down too quickly? I don't know. But, with the defense is not a great defense, you're not going to win with swing passes.
No. And Greeny, we're coming up on my first release of my Toxic for the year. I know you enjoy that, where we talked, about the game. This is a game of turnovers and big plays. And you've got to win those margins. And by doing what and Mike McCarthy's doing the right thing. This is all you can do. You can win that way, playing small ball, if you can play great defense, and they're not, and if you are running the ball effectively. That we've seen that now. I don't know if you go into championship that way, as we did in 2000. That was a different set of circumstances. But the Kansas City Chiefs have done that for years. You play small ball, you play great defense, and you run the ball. Well, Green Bay's not doing either one of them. Plus, Aaron Rodgers not being there and Brett Hundley playing small ball had nothing to do with the fact that the Detroit Lions did not punt last night. So that in itself, I mean, and this is, you can look at any team in the National Football League and take the starting quarterback away. Take Matthew Stafford away from Detroit. What kind of team are they going to be? We'd be having the same conversation. Here in Baltimore, Joe Flacco is struggling right now because the same way. They just can't make big plays down the field, and uncharacteristic for them, they're not playing great defense, so they're vulnerable.
It was brought up, if somehow, some way, they keep their head above water and there's a chance that Aaron Rodgers could return this season, are you of the mindset that if the medical staff says he's good to go and we're still in this thing, you put him back on the field, or there are those that are suggesting you just shut him down for the year?
Yeah, I'd leave that to the medical. They'd have to really sell me on the fact that he's at no greater risk for injuring it further, that there could be that the hit that he is going to take, that he's no more vulnerable to get injured again than any other quarterback. I just don't know that a doctor can tell you that. And just what we talked about with the Packers, of course, if you have Aaron Rodgers, you're always a factor, and you're always going to believe in that. And we got a lot of football left to play. I don't care if it's Green Bay. I don't care if it's the New York Giants to say, okay, we're done. I know you've been talking about the New York Giants and Eli Manning. Okay, let's say you make that change. Then you're telling the rest of the team, these veterans, that, again, you have a limited shelf life in the NFL. Go out and play hard. Expose yourself to injury on a year where we're basically saying we know we have no chance of winning, going to the playoffs. Even if we went to the playoffs, would probably be one and done. That's a tough place to be in. And so, you can hold out that hope for your team if you want, and the NFC North is such, with the exception of the Vikings, maybe, you're in the NFC wild card division. You have a lot of teams that are moving from their divisions into the wild card division because what's going on in that race. They're now in Green Bay. They're in the wild card division with teams like maybe Detroit and Atlanta and possibly Seattle and Dallas, depending upon how things transpire. That's who you're competing with. And so I just don't see the upside in playing Aaron Rodgers for the very reason we talked about earlier. I don't think they're good enough on defense and to run the ball. And particularly after an entire season off, I don't know. I just can't see that happening. Why would you expose Aaron Rodgers at a point in his career? Yeah, if he's a young guy, 26, 27, okay, yeah, let him go in there and continue to progress. What's the upside in Aaron Rodgers playing?
Mike and Brian Billick, and since you took us there yourself, let's go to the Giants. As you watch them, how would you assess how much of what's wrong with them has to do with the quarterback?
Well, we've said it many times. One of the hardest things to do in this game is to separate the play of the quarterback from what's going on around him. It's not fair to evaluate Eli Manning and saying, where is he in his game with what's going on around him? They're just not a very good football team. And so given that, now here's the dilemma. And listen to your conversation. I think you guys laid it out very, very intelligently with a strategic idea of, okay, let's play David Webb to see what we have, although I think they already know what they have. We're going to be in position to take what appears to be a pretty rich quarterback drafting market. We'll see as we get into the to the draft as to how good these guys really are. And you don't even have to say that means that we're pushing Eli out the door, that we're going to do the Aaron Rodgers thing. Of course, he's the poster boy for draft a guy and then let him sit for 2 or 3 years. Well, let Eli finish this thing out and go from there. Well, you're going to put your number one asset in the draft into a quarterback who's not going to help you this year on a team that probably needs to be reinvented offensively like they did defensively when they put $200 million in the defense the last couple of years. So strategically that makes sense, but emotionally, and what does it do to Eli, and what path does it put you on, and what's the future of Ben McAdoo? A lot of moving parts in this. It's no matter what you do, it doesn't look good.
Let's stay with the quarterback position. San Francisco trades for Jimmy Garoppolo, and they even suggested he may not make his debut till next season. What's the sense in that, and what's the thought process there of why you wouldn't get him on the field this year?
He's going to play. That's just Kyle Shanahan floating out to the media. Don't tell me when I'm going to play him. You can make all the speculation when he is going to play. He's going to be in the backup role. It's my understanding this week that they've announced he's going to be in the backup role, and not with the exception of injury, he won't go in. Well, that's leading towards putting him in. You got to play him. You want to integrate in the system. There's no upside. If you weren't going to play him, then why trade for him now? Make the agreement you're going to trade for him at the end of the year, and which would have made more sense. So you got to play him now. You believe you have the right guy. Now, you only put in a second-round pick. I know that's high. But, again, it's a quarterback-rich draft. I want to put him in because we don't know really that much about Jimmy Garoppolo. We think we know. And how many times have we seen these backup quarterbacks that have played a couple games go someplace for a high price and then fall flat on their face? I mean, that's the history of this. So that you got to at least consider that. Even though San Francisco is a terrible football team right now, you got to put him in. If you're worried about what going on around him is going to affect him and hurt him in his development, a.k.a. a David Carr, who you brought up earlier in Houston, well, then you drafted the wrong guy. Troy Aikman and Peyton Manning, just got besieged their first couple years in the league, but they learned from it and they went forward, and that's how they went on to become great players. So if you're that concerned that this guy could collapse because he's got a bad team around him, then you probably just wasted the draft pick.
That's interesting. Can you expand on that a little more, Brian? Because obviously you were listening to the conversation that we were having before you came in, and it was sort of a chicken and egg thing. I'm of the belief that if you're a great basketball player, regardless of where you play basketball, your talent will shine through. But football, even at the quarterback, maybe even especially at the quarterback position, is so interdependent. It really is the ultimate team sport. So you don't believe that you think that a guy, if he's really a great player, is going to show that he's a great player regardless of the circumstances he's in.
Yeah, I think we have a great a case study. Let's go back to the Ryan Leaf, Eli Manning saga.
Yeah,
and the way they were drafted and flipped. And so you could make the supposition, for those that choose to make this, that, well, if it had stayed status quo, and if Eli had stayed in San Diego and Ryan Leaf had gone to New York, it would be Ryan Leaf with 2 Super Bowl MVPs. I don't buy into that. Yeah, coaching environment certainly makes a difference, but I think the player rises above that. And we have case study after case. Like I said, all you have to do is go back to Troy Aikman and or Peyton Manning and guys that have been put in from stage one. Everybody looks to Aaron Rodgers. Say, oh, no, you got to sit him on the bench. If you'd have started Aaron Rodgers from day one, we'd still be talking about Aaron Rodgers. Now, it turned out they had Brett Favre, and it worked out great, but that's the outlier. You got to play these guys, particularly in today's market. Find out what you have. And if it's around a bad team, do you run the risk of doing some damage? Possibly. With all due respect to David Carr and the 76 sacks he had with that franchise in Houston when it first got started, I think David Carr, at the end of the day, just really didn't have the skill set to be successful in the NFL as a starter. Pretty good backup, long-time career. But I don't think it was because of what he started in Houston and the progression he went through. So the good players are going to shine through, and you got to give them that opportunity. We have this debate all the time. Well, let's don't start him because I'm not sure I want to expose him. If you're taking a guy on the first, second, or third pick, and you're not sure he's going to emotionally hold up to being on a bad football team, which typically you are if you're the first, second, third, fourth pick, then you've taken the wrong guy.
He's Brian Billick. He's on Twitter, @Coach Billick. When does the first toxic differential come out? You know how I love it.
Yeah, I wait till everybody's got the same number of games, and so it'll be the next. Once I get past all these buys, I hate statistical anomalies, so I'm talking like a tweak now. But I want everybody to have the same number of games, and we'll crank that baby out.
You're the best, Brian. Thank you.
Brian.
Talk to you next week.
All right, guys.
That's Brian Billick on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. It's one of my favorite stats.
I know you love that, yeah.
He